It's time for the Movin The Chains podcast. Your home for high school football coverage in the Palmetto State. Every team, every game, every week. And now your hosts, Kevin Thomas and John Epps.
Welcome in to Movin The Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. I'm Kevin Thomas, and we are making a call to the bullpen. We're going to bring in the flamethrower, Jerel Hendricks, for tonight's show. We're here with our Week 5 preview show. Jerel, how you doing tonight, my man?
Man, I am good, try to bring the heat, try to fill John's shoes, big shoes to fill there. Maybe not. He probably wears like a size 5, but it's fun. It's going to be a lot of fun, and looking forward to previewing these games, man.
Should be a lot of fun for sure. John is out of town this week, so it's myself and Jerel here for our Week 5 preview show. Jerel, last week when we had this show, it was just loaded matchups all across the state, every classification, all corners of the Palmetto State as well. This week, not quite as much. You got a few more buys sprinkled in as well as we're getting ready for region play to come along. But, man, still a lot of really good matchups, huh?
Yeah, most definitely. Looking forward to this week. I think this week the theme is going to be, quality over quantity. Got a lot of teams, with bye weeks, things like that, scheduling issues, getting ramped up, because you got the different, regions, some play 6 games, some playing 5, some playing 4. So, it's a situation where we don't have as many games, but I think we have some really good games on tap to talk about.
No doubt about it. Well, if you guys have not seen us before, we appreciate you tuning in. Check us out here on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. at Movin Chains. That's MOVINCHAINS. Our website, movinchains.com. Our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. We do a live preview show here on Tuesday nights about 7 o'clock. It's live on Facebook and YouTube. We preview the week's biggest games and the whole slate across the state. We do a recap show that comes out on Sundays. That's podcast audio only there. It's a lot of fun as well. We do a Twitter/X Spaces on Friday night. Basically, it's a live scoreboard show about 10:30, 11. We have people from around the state hop in, talk about their favorite team, give us the scores. It's a lot of fun to do that as well. But, Jerel, let's get rolling here with our CONA games of the week. Check out CONA.care for all of their services. We got 5 good ones this week, Jerel. Let's start here in the 1A classification. We have Southside Christian traveling to St. Joe's. Southside Christian at 1-2, St. Joe's 5-0. Southside Christian 52-21 over Anderson Cavaliers last week. St. Joe's 61-12 over Ware Shoals. Southside Christian led by quarterback Paul Coben had 3 touchdowns last week. Ethan Chandler, running back. Zach Brewster, wide receiver. The defense led by Matthew Doris, Michael McGowan, and Christian Kaiser. They do have 2 losses, Jerel, but they are both by a couple of points. 1 point to Abbeville and then 2 points to Commerce out of Georgia. St. Joe's led by first-year quarterback Cade Alt. They're not asking him to do a lot. They're really focused on the ground attack with Braden Johnson and William Gillespie. Gillespie also probably their best receiver. Defensively led by Johnny Juraszewski, a huge player, had a lot of tackles last year. He's back again for them. And then Joe Patterson on that side of the ball as well. Jerel, last year we saw these teams play twice. In the regular season, Southside Christian won 31-14. In the playoffs, though, St. Joe's came back and got them 29-28 in overtime. What do you think happens this week in this big 1A Greenville County matchup?
Man, I just got to look at the resumes, just seeing the disparity in games played, with St. Joe's playing 5 games, Southside Christian only playing 3 so far. I think St. Joe's just has so much momentum there, and they've played so well. I started looking at the statistics. I like the numbers, man. They're scoring 43.6 points a game, giving up 6.4. I mean, that's impressive regardless of who you're playing, but they've played some teams like Landrum. They've got a dynamic backfield up there. They shut down Seneca, like you said, this week, put up 61 points. And then going to Southside Christian, they're no slouch either. They played twice last year, like you mentioned, 2 very good games. This is going to kick off region play, kind of a rivalry game, going to set the tone because we know that's a 3-headed monster in that region. But how will they bounce back, from losing those tight games? They lost a lot from last year. Corey Martin, Michael Woodfield, replacing that senior leadership there. How can they bounce back? That's a tough one, to kick off your region against St. Joe's in a rivalry game there. It's going to be a tight one, but I just got to lean St. Joe's just based on the resume so far.
These teams seem to always play close games, it feels like. I like the Codeman kid at quarterback a lot for the Sabres, but just like you said, not a lot of playing time yet. Only, 3 games, on the ledger is not a ton. Hadn't really got comfortable yet with that offense, it feels like there. St. Joseph's defense is so good, man. The Jerezewski kid can really play, really get after it. If they can get that run game going, I think they win this ball game. I like St. Joe's at home in a close one, but should be a really fun one there on Friday night. Jerel, any comments from the chat we need to address on that ball game before we go on our next CONA game of the week?
Nothing so far. We got some shout outs, so let's go ahead and do that real quick.
And we got Marion Myrtle Beach coming up here in a minute for sure. That'll be a big one. Derek, good to see you as always, buddy. Robert, what's going on, man? Big matchup for Dylan this week. Deidre and Louisville. I mean, you just keep putting up 70 and shutting guys out, man. Nothing to it, huh? Pretty easy. But our next CONA game of the week, this is a fun one here, Jerel. A 2A, 3A cross matchup here. 2 undefeated squads as well. And that's Saluda. The Tigers at 2 traveling to Gilbert. The Indians at 4-0. Both squads 4-0. I don't know if I said it or not, but both teams are undefeated. Go to Gilbert American over there. Really tough place to play, as always. Saluda, 9-6 victory over Emerald last week. Ken Main Brunson leading their rushing attack is a really good player for them. The quarterback, Drew Arand, is back from last year. They've got another running back, Braden Williams, get some carries as well. This team is very young. We mentioned they graduated 30-something seniors last year. Only got 9 seniors on this year's squad.
Yeah.
We'll see how they perform in their first really big, tough test there. Gilbert, maybe the surprise of the week last week with a 14-3 victory over Lexington, going up 2 classes, winning that ball game over a rival. Really impressive there. Quarterback Drake Braddock, wide receiver Matt Edwards, running back Jalen J, efficient on the ground and a good receiver out of the backfield as well. Listen to these stats, Trail. Last week, the defense said they had 6 sacks and hit Lexington to 165 yards of offense. I mean, that is playing some defense right there, led by Shrine Bowler, Caleb Streese there at the linebacker spot. Last year, Saluda won this game pretty easily, 33-21. Can they do it again, or do you like Gilbert at home?
I got to go Gilbert, man. You got to think about the momentum they have after last week. Did not know those defensive statistics. I know they won the game. They held them to 3 points, but holding them under, 150 yards of total offense is simply ridiculous. Coach Leapart really has those guys playing good football. I think Saluda's good, but that kind of scares me as far as, their last, game against Emerald, only putting up 9 points. Like, that's not going to be enough. You're putting up 9 points against Emerald. You're going up against this defense that completely shut out a 5A team in Lexington. That's cause for concern. But again, I think this is a great matchup for both teams. Don't like that youth with Saluda, not necessarily youth, but, losing so much from that talented squad last year. But this is the craziest stat for Gilbert, man. They've been flying under the radar. You got to think they lost their 2 best playmakers in that backfield, Elias Graham Woodbury and then Jaden Allen Hendricks, who we saw last week, just running people over for Irmo. Imagine how good that team would be if they had a big Jaden in the backfield there. But give me Gilbert in this game. I'm very comfortable in saying the Indians pull off the victory.
This is a ball game where I love both the head coaches. Stuart Young at Saluda does a fantastic job. And obviously Coach Leapart there at Gilbert is a legend in the game. The all-time wins leader now at his alma mater there. I love Ken Main Brunson at Saluda. He's a stud on both sides of the ball. Yeah. I worry about him getting worn out a little bit against a higher class team that's going to have a little more depth. Gilbert's always, big and physical and just has a lot of players, it feels like, as well down there. And then on top of that, man, I said it to start the preview here, playing down at Gilbert, man, Gilbert America, as they call it. That's a tough place to play. I like what the Indians are doing. I like Drake Braddock back there at quarterback, a guy with some experience. Ran that offense for a couple of years now. I think he's a good player. I think they win this game. I think Gilbert's a lot better than we gave them credit for a couple weeks ago. I think the Indians roll here by probably 14 points or so.
Yeah, the only thing that scares me with Gilbert, that was a high, emotion game last week.
Yeah.
You're playing a bigger school, you're playing a rival, very close to each other. Are they able to put back-to-back performances together against Saluda? Because you mentioned Coach Young and those guys, they're used to winning. They won this game last year. Can Gilbert, stack up those victories? That's the only concern, but it's a small concern. I think Gilbert's going to win this football game too.
Agreed. Any comments on this ball game here, Drew, we need to address?
Oh, we got a couple.
Bulldog, I think Gilbert by a couple scores as well, man. It feels like those boys are rolling right now. They're going to be a tough out for anyone in 3A. But is Lexington that good this year? Also, best playing running back. Yeah, that's one thing I've worried about too, Zach. I like the quarterback Taden Mines, but lost some receivers too, along with Jonah Norris. They've been kind of pounding the ball up front, and Gilbert taking that away was really impressive last week. Lexington, I think we'll see more about them as when region rolls around, of course, but I like that Gilbert squad a lot. But Jerel, let's look now. No, go ahead.
Yeah, we can go to the next game. That's all we had for that one.
Let's look now at our third CONA game of the week. Jerel, this might be my favorite game of the week, actually, thinking about it now. And that's Marion at 5-0, traveling to Doug Shaw Stadium to play Myrtle Beach. The Seahawks 3-1. Last year, Myrtle Beach won this game 46-28. Last week, Marion defeated Straw 40-3. Myrtle Beach had a bye. Gabe Cusack for Marion went 5 for 7, $147 and a touchdown to the air, 12 carries for 80 yards, 2 more touchdowns last week. Quashid Scott had 2 touchdowns rushing and touchdown receiving. The running backs, Reeves and Edie, are good players. Watching for Wilson's a good player. The defense led by Edie and Pearson and Tyshawn Sanders, the App State commit. Scott as well on that side of the ball. And, of course, Cusack, the quarterback, playing some linebacker as well. So a lot of talent there for those guys. Myrtle Beach led by Malachi Washington, one of my favorites in the state, a great running back for them. He's a really good player. Good offensive line led by Shrine Bowler Brady Pickett. Gibson Goodrow, the quarterback, you guys remember from a couple weeks back, just started playing football. He's been a big baseball player, getting more and more comfortable now at that start quarterback role, kind of leading that offense there. I like the receiver Simmons a lot. The linebacker Ricky Escobar is a good player for them. Last year, I think Jerel, like I said, this game went 46-28. I think it was like 22-20 Marion after the first quarter. The Swamp Foxes kind of fell off there. And you do worry about the depth, when you're going up 2 classes like that. I'll tell you what, I think Marion's got a really good chance to win this game. Another thing I haven't mentioned yet, and I'll tell you, I think this is why I think they can win it, is that they're very dangerous in the return game. Quashid Scott, I feel like, has taken 2 or 3 kicks back to the house already this year. In a ball game with a lot of athletes like this, where it's close on both sides, I think the Swamp Foxes can pull it off.
Yeah, I don't know yet, man. I've been waffling on this one too. This is also probably my favorite game to watch this week. Not really sure what to make of Myrtle Beach because, I'm going back and looking at the numbers, looking at the schedule, start off getting blown out by Camden, who has shown to not be as good as Camden normally is. Then they roll off 3 in a row against 5A teams, so they lose to a 3A team, then they knock down 3 straight 5A teams, very easily for the most part, other than SCISA. But then Marion, man, they are so talented. Like you said, those top 3 guys that they have, Cusack, Scott, Martin, they are so good. And especially, Scott on the back end too. Their defense has been fantastic. They've given up 52 points this season. Really the only, I would say the closest game would be Lakeview, and that's a week 0 Thursday game, where, Cusack got it done with his legs that game. I think he scored 4 rushing touchdowns. This one's a tough one to pick. Just to be safe, I'll say Myrtle Beach. They've got the momentum going in there. I do worry about them wearing down, but that's no knock on Marion. I think Marion is a legitimate top 5 team in the state. I think Marion is going to make a run towards the state championship. I just think Myrtle Beach is probably going to lean on them a little bit. And like you saw last year, it might just separate at the end of the game.
Myrtle Beach coming off a bye as well is a big plus for them. Coach Mickey Wilson knows what he's doing there. And I tell you, nobody's throwing on Marion all year. I mean, if you're going to attack them, you've got to run the ball because you're not throwing on Scott and Sanders all night long. You're just not. They're going to pick off at least 1 or 2 of those. But Myrtle Beach, I don't think they want to throw it a whole lot. I think they want to rely on Malachi White. I think 2 weeks ago he had 200+ in the third quarter through that ball game, so he can get it on the ground. But I'm going to go the Swamp Foxes, man. I think they win a close one here. I think this is a different Marion team. The last couple years we talked about how they've been so hot and just kind of fell off the cliff in the playoffs. This year they've been playing really consistent. It feels like, full games, not, starting off hot and falling off. I think it's a different Swamp Fox squad. I think they pull the win over the bigger Myrtle Beach team this Friday night.
Yeah, and I like Marion too. Bounce back against Jerel. They had that embarrassing loss in the playoffs. Good to see them do that. And I said Martin instead of Sanders. I don't know. He's a Super 75 guy. I mean, we had three
Yeah.
Super 75 guys from that school there. But I just think Myrtle Beach is going to be a little bit too tough as this game wears on. And I think it's going to be a close one, though. Very, very close matchup.
For sure. What comments do we have on this ball? I think I saw a couple rolling in as we were going.
Let's see what we got.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Wilson, that was a good ball game last year. Wilson pulled away second half. This year, Marion, didn't let that happen and beat them pretty handily. It felt like I think something similar could happen this week.
And, of course, we got to throw this up there. You mentioned it already.
Hey, exactly right, Corey. I mean, you can't pass on those guys, man. If you guys haven't seen the highlight tapes of Quashid Scott and Tyshawn Sanders, go watch so those guys can fly around the football.
Yeah, that's all we got. Let's move on to the next game, Kev.
Perfect. Our fourth CONA game of the week. This game was a thriller last year, and that's West Florence traveling up to the upstate to take on the Byrnes Rebels. West Florence 3-1, Byrnes 4-1. West Florence coming off a bye 2 weeks ago. Franklin Emerson, who's playing quarterback and linebacker for them in the win over Dreer, ran for 4 touchdowns, threw for 2 more. The running back transfer, Trey Leonard from Trinity Collegiate, really good talent, but hasn't really gotten it going yet this year, it feels like. I don't know if he's just kind of, still feeling comfortable with his guys or what, but he hadn't quite really broken out yet. Defensive back Kelvin Hunter, a South Carolina commit. He is a really good ball player, flies around in the back end of that secondary. Also big in the return game for them as well. Also catches a few passes, runs a few balls, things like that as well on that side of the football for them. Byrnes, 28-7 victory over Wren. Quarterback Andrew Stevens seems to be settling in. He had 262 and 2 touchdowns last week. The freshman running back Trey Segura keeps putting up numbers. We know about Weaver and Bomar, the big playmakers outside for them. Defensively, they played really good football also lately as well between Oates and Foster and Livingston. Last year, Jerel, this ball game listened to on the radio. We were over at Dorman. West Florence, a late touchdown as time expired to win 22-19. A little bit of a revenge factor for the Rebels here this week, you think. Who do you like in this ball game?
I like the Rebs in this one, man. They seem like they've gotten their issues worked out. They had the big win at Huff, had a short week, and week 1 playing against Chapman, who's a very good football team, and losing that game, kind of falling apart in the second half there. But since then, they've just put together 3 complete performances. This game's at Nixon Field. It's going to be packed there. You already mentioned the revenge factor in this football game, with West Florence winning it tight last year. Late walk-off win there. I think Byrnes is going to have something to prove. I think they're going to need this game as well, for a confidence builder. I think this is going to set them up to go into their bye, and we know they're going to go into the playoffs, and they play in one of the most difficult regions in 5A football. So they really need to win this game. West Florence, I mean, we mentioned the players. I think they've taken a little bit of a step back from last year with how good they are. Yeah. We looked at that Lexington loss early in the season and kind of didn't ding them for that because we thought Lexington is better than they've shown to be thus far. But, they really just haven't had the level of competition, to kind of justify me saying I think that they're going to go into Nixon Field and defeat Byrnes. But I think Byrnes wins this game, 2 touchdowns, 70 points. It's going to be a comfortable victory for them.
West Florence, led by head coach Jody Generette. He's an aggressive guy, going to pull out all the stops for sure in this ball game. But I think you're right, Joe. I think Byrnes, what I wanted to see a couple weeks ago is more consistency out of those guys. And they put together a few good performances in a row now on both sides of the ball. I think that continues. I think they win this game. I do like what West Florence is going to do. I think they're going to get better throughout the year and get better and better, but I don't think they're quite good enough yet. I like Byrnes to win this game as well over Nixon Field.
Yeah, for sure. I really I think that's going to be the difference. And I think Byrnes just really has figured it out the last few weeks, getting that big bounce back against Greenville, rivalry game against Greer, and then, defeating that Wren team who's very solid. I need to talk about the Byrnes kicker. We need to, this is football, not soccer. He needs to realize that. But I think the Rebs are going to roll in this one. Yeah,
you got to wonder if Kelvin Hunter, if he's ready for that this week, if he breaks one on a return, if he's ready to jump over the slide tackle or not. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, but, sure, man. That was wild stuff, man. Wild stuff.
Yeah, any comments from the crowd on this ball game?
We got Zach in here, definitely.
Yeah, Nixon Field's tough, man. Should be a great crowd this week, I would think. It may be homecoming. I haven't seen, for sure, but it's getting about that time of year, so it could be even better crowd than usual.
Most definitely. That's the only comment we got on this one.
Perfect. We'll look now at our SCISA game of the week from CONA here, and that's 2 undefeated teams as well, Jerel. Patrick Henry at 5-0, traveling down to Clarendon Hall at 4-0. Patrick Henry, 33-20 of Greenwood Christian last week. Clarendon Hall, 46-14 over Kings. The Patriots, quarterback Hugh Ferry, 13 for 23, 229 and 2 touchdowns and 79 yards on the ground. Mathis and Brunson leading them at running back. Mathis catching the ball, too, is a threat for them. Defensively led by Berg, Searles, and Mathis. Clarendon Hall, on the other hand, quarterback Brock Mathis, running back Darius Aiken. He's a big-time playmaker, averaging over 160 per game on the ground. Defensively led by Mathis, Tommy Lee Atkinson, Wilder Robinson, Noss, and Reynolds. Last year, Jerel, Patrick Henry won this game 22-16, a really close one there in the 1A SCISA ranks. I'm going to go Clarendon Hall at home. I think Darius Aiken, too much of a talent, too big of a playmaker there. I think they win this ball game, but this is certainly one we could see down the road in the playoffs again.
You are the SCISA expert, but I'm going to say not so fast. I'm going to go Patrick Henry, man. I like what they've done so far. I think they're going to win this game. 5-0 start. Again, looking at the numbers, they scored at least 33 in every contest they've played so far. Pitched 2 shutouts there. Clarendon Hall, their schedule. You gotta school me on this SCISA ball too, man. They played Kings twice, once home and away.
I think that's a Max Preps issue. I think it's a Max Preps issue. Okay. Yeah.
I even looked at the website to clarify, and I don't know. I looked at the Clarendon Hall website, so we'll see what's going on there. But I do like Patrick Henry to win in this ball game.
I tell you what's funny, Jerel. When I wrote these games out earlier today, I'm always thinking, who do I want to pick? And I write this down. I'm like, all right, I'm going to take Patrick Henry. I get on the show, I say Clarendon Hall. Why? I don't know. I'm actually going to flip back to Patrick Henry now. I like the dual threat quarterback. I like the Ferry kid. I think the Patriots win this ball game and run it to 6-0 on the season. Jerel, any more comments from folks about any of these ball games, or even just not these, but just any games in general?
Yeah, I got Jeffrey in the chat.
Let's go Patrick Henry. Yeah, this is going to be a great ball game in 1A, Jeffrey. Hope if you're there, love to get your thoughts on it. Love you to shoot that over to us after the game. That would be great to have from you. Some games twice. One is not good. Gotcha, Allison. Yeah, and I know that sometimes in the SCISA ranks, depending on location, geography, or whatnot, you can play twice, but I thought that was a mishap, but it could be correct for sure.
Yeah, I did get clarification. They did play Kings twice, once at home and one on the road. So yeah, they smoked them both times. So good there.
Perfect.
But we'll run through some comments real quick, just in general. Knock these
Lewis
out.
looking up 0. Yeah, 0 over the last 4 weeks is pretty tough there. Adrian. Good evening, Zach. Good to have you, man. Clinton will be bouncing back for sure. Yeah, that was a tough loss, but they'll be ready to roll. We know they will be. Terrence, Hampton County making noise. Yeah, that's a team we've gotten our top 5 in 2A. Was close to being a game of the week this week. Got a big matchup against BC. We'll talk about here in a little bit. Patrick, good to have you here, my man. Tough one for Gaffney. Like we talked about last week. I mean, 2 good teams. Gaffney's going to be fine. I didn't see it being a blowout like it was. That was kind of surprising, but I mean, 2 really good football teams there. Terrence, good to have you in here, man. Hopefully, Denmark Olar gets it turned around here quickly for you.
We'll get to this one later.
Yep,
sure.
Anthony Dylan Marlborough, the Highway 9 rivalry. We'll talk about that in here in a little bit for sure.
Yep, I think that's all we've got right now, and then we'll keep rolling.
Perfect. So once again, our 5 CONA games of the week. We got Southside Christian at St. Joe's, Saluda at Gilbert, Marion at Myrtle Beach, West Florence at Byrnes, and Patrick Henry at Clarendon Hall for our SCISA game of the week. Those are always brought to you by CONA, our great friends over there. Jerel, before we run a spot for our friends of the program, if you guys are just tuning in now and you missed one of those games, you can always go back and listen to it once we get done. Let's check that out after the show here. But Jerel, let's go a quick shout out to our friends of the program before we get into the 5A slate.
Take your financial game to the next level with Founders Federal Credit Union. Reach your full potential. Relax. Join Founders today. Visit an office near you or relaxjoinfounders.com to apply. Federally insured by NCUA, member qualification required.
Carolina Orthopedic and Neurosurgical Associates, CONA, offers the most advanced training and experience in orthopedic surgery, neurosurgery, sports medicine, and pain management in the upstate. 3 convenient locations in Spartanburg, Duncan, and Greenville. Go to CONA.care to learn more.
Perfect. Let's take a look now, starting at the 5A slate. Jerel, feel free to hop in with any comments you have about these ballgames as we go through them. We got Chapin at AC Flora, a Chapin team that's been hot. People are not talking a lot about those guys, but they keep winning, it feels like, huh?
Yeah, for sure. I think Chapin's won 4 in a row, 3 in a row now. Just played some really good football. AC Flora going in the other direction. Just has not played as well as we expect them to do. Had some big losses from last year's team, but just not, level competition, competitiveness. That's what I want to say. Competitiveness. That's what I want to say. This year from the Falcons. But I think Chapin's a very good football team. It's going to be a good test for them to see how good they are this week.
We've got Conway at Ainer. Clover at Bowling Springs. Fun game here, Jerel. I feel like Clover's getting to figure out a little bit on offense. The Hoover kids slinging it around. You know, Coach Woolbright's getting those guys like to run the system like he wants to. Bowling Springs, we saw them firsthand 2 weeks ago. They got a quarterback, the Lincoln Husky kid there. They can score points as well. I think Clover – I was going to say I like Clover in this game, and I think I do. Yeah. But I think it's going to be a really fun matchup over there in Spartanburg County.
To be the contrarian I am, let me go with Bowling Springs in that one. I was really impressed with Lincoln Husky, man. He's a very good talent, but I do like Clover as well. I think these are two teams that are trending the right direction.
We've got May River at Cane Bay, a fun low-country ball game down there. Two hard-hitting teams, I think, in that one. We've got Dutch Fork hosting Weddington at North Carolina. Don't look now, folks. Dutch Fork's won 2 in a row. Don't write them off quite yet. And I saw some reports that John Hunt may be back sooner rather than later as well for the Silver Foxes, so we'll see how that goes there at the quarterback spot. But big game there, always pulling for our home state teams over the out-of-state opponents.
Yeah, they're going to face the Fighting Will Shipleys there at Weddington. I think that's where he's from. But, yeah, man, like you said, Dutch Fork, they finally found some offense. You cannot count those guys out. You cannot count out Coach Knotts. They're going to be there at some point this season. Don't worry about it.
A big 5A matchup here, Gaffney at Fort Dorchester. Gaffney, obviously a little bit beat up after last week, kind of upset about that game. This ball game was really tight last year. They beat Fort Dorchester at the reservation. Fort Dorchester smoked Berkeley last week, Jerel. I'm a little worried about the quarterback spot. I know I talked to the guys a couple weeks ago, and Fort D was still kind of rotating guys a little bit. I don't know if they got that settled yet or not. I like the running back, Brown. I like the receiver, Snyder. I like the defense a lot. But you're playing a pissed-off Gaffney team. Just be fresh with it. I mean, and I think Gaffney's got a good chance to get down there and win this game.
I think it's a must-win for Gaffney after the performance last week. I think they need to get that bad taste out of their mouth. They did it earlier when they played Crest. Mm-hmm. A hard-fought game. They were able to bounce back, string some things together, play some good football. But they need to win that game more so just because of the performance that they showed against Northwestern. That game was not close. You know, I know we predicted that Northwestern was going to win the football game, and Northwestern is a top 3 team in the state regardless of class. But I don't know what to make of Gaffney so far, looking at their score lines. I think they're going to be very good, but I think they need to win. And Fort D, you know, they're trending up too. They've kind of been forgotten about. You know, Somerville's getting all the pub in the low country. How good is Fort D? They've had a lot going on with the program the last 6 months or so. But I think Gaffney is going to win the game because they really need to.
Yeah, long road trip. I don't know if they're leaving, I guess probably pretty dang early on Friday morning, I would think, for that one. But I like the Indians in a close one here. But we will learn a lot about both teams with how this one turns out for sure on Friday night. We've got York at Fort Mill, White Knoll at Lancaster, Spartanburg at Malden. Jerel, the Vikings found their offense last week. They kind of woke up on that side of the ball, it felt like.
And that's scary, man. I think they put up 40-plus in that game. You know, Coach Hodge has been preaching about how good this team is, and it's finally starting to come together. I think that win over Dutch Fork early in the season is going to look better and better as the season progresses. The Vikings are a scary team. Again, they're in that Region 2 and 5A. It's going to get really, really tough for them. But if the Vikings can get the offense rolling, the defense has been, you know, lights out all season.
Carolina Forest travels down to North Myrtle Beach. Nation Ford at Richland Northeast, Dormant at River Bluff, Northwestern at Rock Hill. A fun rivalry game there, all you know, at D3 Stadium. But I think last year this one was like 70-0 or something bad, Jerel.
It's going to be similar.
Rock Hill, you can't let that happen again. You know that Rock Hill's put up some points last 2 weeks over LR, and then I think York last week in a loss. They need to get on the scoreboard. I don't know if it'll stay competitive or not, but you don't want to get beat by 60. I think that's your goal.
Yeah, I think they'll get on the scoreboard. I would hope so. You know, they got Shrine Bowl quarterback Matthew Wilson there. You know, I think they'll be fine, but I think Northwestern, and I said top 3, like they may be the best team.
Yeah.
They are that freaking good. I don't think it's going to be close, though. I think Northwestern's going to roll them.
Turbo Richard is back, and he is playing some football for those guys. Woodmont at Seneca, St. James at Stratford, Goose Creek at Somerville, Oceanside at Sumter. You know, Oceanside defeated Sumter last year. I think it was 19-0. I believe in that ball game. Two teams that right now seem to be pretty focused on the defense side of the ball. Sumter's got back-to-back losses they're coming off of. I think they lose 3 in a row. I think Oceanside beats them again.
Yeah, it's going to be number 3 coming up. I think Oceanside's way better. Sumter's got to figure something out because they've just been exposed the last 2 weeks. I think Oceanside is a very good team. I know you talked to Coach Wilkes, you know, in the private chat line. They haven't they haven't played very good football according to him this season. So that's a scary thought. They're a very good football team, and Sumter's a team that's going to need to do some soul searching and figure some things out because it hasn't looked good the last 2 weeks.
We've got West Ashley traveling to Timberland, Lawrence at TL Hanna, JL Mann at Wade Hampton, Ashley Ridge at Wando. Ashley Ridge playing great football right now. Derek Sally, junior receiver, is getting it done. Quarterback Jeff Tate's got those boys rolling. They're playing really good down there. And then to wrap up the 5A slate, a game with a lot of ties here, Jerel. Hillcrest at Wren. Wren new head coach Anthony Freight coming over from Hillcrest. The Rams playing really good football. Big win last week over Pattersville. The offense got rolling. It felt like Avery McFadden became the all-time leading career touchdown receiver for the Rams, I think with 26, something like that now. So hats off to Avery. That number will probably be in the 30s before he gets done here in a few weeks. And Wren, they play a lot of tough ball games. You know, they played Jefferson out of Georgia, lost to them, but we're still competitive. Same thing with TL Hanna. 27 last week to Byrnes is not a blowout, I would say. They beat Seneca. They put up a lot of points on Seneca and kind of blew those guys out.
Yeah,
I don't think Wren's going to have to win this ball game, but they could keep it interesting for sure.
Yeah, this is one of those weird ones. Coach Freight is familiar with that program, familiar with the personnel there. So he's done some advanced scouting, so to speak. So he knows what they're going to present. Obviously Coach Swigert brings a lot of different things, coming from the college ranks. His offense is complex, obviously got a new trigger man, and Caleb Sutton for the Rams. But this one could be interesting. I would not be surprised if this is a 1-score game. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Wren won the game. I don't think they will. No, I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised just because of the familiarity that he has with that program. But I think the Rams have just played too well this season, and they have too much talent for Wren to hang on.
Yeah, I like Hillcrest in that one. That's all our 5A slate. Drew, any comments we need to get to here?
Let's see what we got. We'll throw this one up there.
Yeah, Thurman North Augusta, that was in the running for games of the week. It was Zach. We'll get that out in here in a second for sure. Yeah, Patrick Turbo is legit, one of our players of the week. Scored 4 touchdowns last week. He can get it done, man. The BC commit. Yeah, fighting Will Shipley's. Yeah, that was a good comment there, Joe. I like that one. Corey says Northwestern probably going to repeat Rock Hill 70-0. I think that's close to what it was last year, Corey. So it could certainly happen again.
And before we get going, we got a college question here for both of us about Clemson FSU. What's your thoughts on it?
Oh, man. Tigers are getting better. They're still not very good yet, I don't think. Florida State, they will play more like they did against LSU than they did against BC this week, I feel like. I'm not going to say Clemson's going to lose because it's just against me to pick that. Let me get like 24-21 Tigers.
I'll say it. 37-14 Clemson.
Oh.
I would say like 17 or 20, but they can't make field goals, so we'll go from there.
Good call, man. Anything else from 5A, Jerel?
No, not that I see. Let's keep rolling.
Perfect. Looking down at the 4A ranks, we've got your Devil Dogs, Travelers Rest, going to Berea. I like their chances.
Hey, man, Dog Bowl, they got a shot. They should win. They should get their second win on the season.
A good matchup here down in the low country. Buford at Bluffton. Bluffton quarterback Owen Hayes. A couple good players out there. Those guys are the Bobcats have some squad or some players on that squad. Buford getting it turned around there. Samari Bond's getting it figured out. Coach Liburn's getting it figured out. I think Buford wins that ball game, but that will be a good test for both teams.
Yeah, most definitely. Like you said, Owen Hayes, man, he's played lights out. Bluffton's played a pretty tough schedule. It's hard to gauge, with them being so close to Georgia. They play those teams across the border a lot.
3 teams out of Georgia and then Battery Creek. I can't tell you. I don't know anything about those guys,
And Battery Creek's not any good, so that one's tough there. But I like Buford, man. They're one of those teams. I'll liken them to Dutch Fork. They're kind of figuring things out. They did the same thing last year. They just schedule so tough non-region. Got a big win against May River last week. Defense is playing well. Coach Liburn will figure out what to do on offense, and I think the Eagles are going to have something to say before it's all over.
We've got Southside at Easley, Westside at Greer, Airport at Irmo. I want to stop here for a second, Jerel, just to mention Irmo. We talked about them last week against Hartsville. We both thought Hartsville was going to win the ball game. We went down to Kellytown Stadium, and Irmo, basically dominated that game. They were bigger, they were more physical. Hartsville did have some injuries. Quarterback McKendry Douglas was out. Linebacker Webb Barnes was out as well. I think one lineman may have been out as well for Hartsville. But Irmo, man, J. Allen Hendricks, 4 touchdowns on one of our players of the week. Coach Brand has those guys rolling right now. I think they win again. Airport's improving, but I think Irmo's a little too much firepower for those guys.
Yeah, I think Irmo wins this game comfortably. They're just a physical team. Just that running game gets going, that offensive line. But as we talked about in the recap show, I was more impressed with that defense. They really flew to the ball. But Coach Fid, what an improvement for Airport. They've done really good this year. I just think they're running into a buzzsaw this week. And kind of skipped over Westside. That's another team I want to talk about. Westside is playing some fantastic football right now. They are getting it done. Cutter Woods is having an impressive season, and he's doing it without his number one option right now.
No doubt about it. They're putting up points on the board. We got Swansea at Midland Valley. Mustangs still undefeated, man. I think they continue to roll. I think this gets them to 6-0, I believe, after this week if they win this one. They are playing great football under Coach Chapman there, looking really, really impressive. The game Zach asked about, I think I saw Omar as well ask about this one. Strom Thurmond at North Augusta, a 2A, 4A matchup. This is a really, really intriguing ball game to me, Jerel. Strom, that they had the loss to Midland Valley, but it was a close loss, and they were playing with a different quarterback. They bring in Quad Edmond late. Braylon Staley out wide. Juju Barrett, I believe, is the linebacker, the Shrine Boy there for those guys. He's a player for them as well. North Augusta, they've been kind of hard to figure out for me. They lose to Dorman on the road, come back and beat a good Greenwood team at Greenwood, I think it was, then get blown up by Dutch Fork last week. But that game was competitive for a while there. Yeah. Coach Bush has his guys playing pretty well. I like Beans Hunt. I like the Tillman kid at quarterback. I think Strom Thurmond wins a close one here. Juju Stevens, Juju Barrett, somebody else. Anyway, Juju Stevens, you're right, Omar. Good call there. But I think Strom Thurmond in a close one here. Too much firepower outside with Braylon Staley and those guys.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Strom's too good offensively, for North Augusta. North Augusta, like you said, they're kind of been an enigma this year, up and down, not really sure what performance we're going to get, whereas Strom's been pretty solid throughout. Now they got Quan Edmond, got that quarterback situation figured out. They seem to be rolling. Of course, Braylon Staley, I think he got named in the Shrine Bowl this week. So
along with Stevens, so two Shrine Bowlers there from Strom Thurmond.
So, yeah, man, that's good to see. I think Strom's going to be a tough out, man. They're a very good football team.
They are. Next up, we got Indian Land going to North Carolina to play Parkwood. Liberty traveling to Pickens. Daniel at Riverside. Riverside got blown out last week by Spartanburg. I thought it would be at least be competitive, and it wasn't. Daniel continues to roll. I think they roll again, man. That offense is so tough right now, and the defense is playing well also. Riverside, they're building. Like, I like what Coach is doing there. I like what Coach Rochester is doing for them.
Yeah.
Just not quite, I think, at that championship level yet.
Yeah, no, not at all. But I think they are improving, like you're saying. Marcus Downs is a heck of a player. They got a really good player outside that plays receiver. Yeah, Skinner. He's very good. But I think Daniel, man, they're just a machine. It's one of those things where we have to make ourselves talk about Daniel because they're so good. And, you kind of just, liken it to college sometimes with like an Alabama. Like, they're so good, you don't really talk about them, kind of gloss over how well they're performing.
Yeah,
because they steamroll talent. And I think Daniel's very good this year, and they're going to win that game very easily.
We've got Clinton at South Aiken, a game that South Aiken, I don't know what to make of those guys, Jerel. We were high on them going into the year. Loved the offense there with Terrence Smith, Javon Edwards, Malik Scurry, and crew. But last week, they didn't even score points. The defense has not been good all year, but last week, the offense even struggled. Clinton had a tough loss last week. I was under Chapman by a point, going for too late. Don't get it. And they're kind of good. I think Clinton will continue to get better because they had some injuries early in the year. These guys will get more and more comfortable with their new roles as the season goes along. I watched some highlights from that quarterback last week for Clinton. He looked really good. I think the Richardson kid is a big-time player for them. I think they're going to throw it more than they used to just because they're going to have to with him. Zay Johnson, a Shrine Bowler as well for them on the outside. I think Clinton gets a win down there at South Aiken at the stable.
You can take the think out of it. Clinton's going to win this game by a lot. It's going to be a lot to a little. Just depends on what South Aiken we see on the offensive side. We know what they're going to do on defense, and that's give up points. So seems like they've kind of given up, which stinks, man, because I really like that program. Love Terrence Smith, Javon Edwards, those guys. It just seems like they've kind of just thrown it in. We were high on them because we were thinking from last year, the defense has to improve, right? It can't get any worse, and it got worse. That's the craziest thing there. But I like Clinton to win by a lot.
I think the Red Devils get one for sure. And then we've got the last game in the 4A slate, Clarendon County at Woodland. I think Clarendon County got their first win, I believe, last week for Coach Kinlock there over North Charleston. Congrats to him on that first victory. Anything out of the 4A comments, Jerel?
Let's see what we got here. Zach's teasing me because I picked Buford to go to state, which, they still might be there. We'll see what happens. Let's see. Definitely shouting out Staley and Juju there for strong.
If you guys have not seen the list of the South Carolina Shrine Bowl players, it's on our website. It's on our Facebook and our Twitter page. We got a blog out with all of these Shrine Bowlers and from where they played or where they play in high school as well.
Got a warning label on this one, non-PC comment from Chris. We'll throw it up there anyways. So we'll see.
Yep. Chris, I think we're both taking Gaffney, but it should be a fun ball game down there.
And Zach, you shouldn't be worried at all. You guys are going to
you're right, Zach. Yeah, South Aiken is struggling. But I tell you what, though, on the thoroughbreds for a second, with an offense that explosive, they could show up at any moment and win a ball game. I don't think it's this week, but they've got the playmakers where they could drop 45, 50 any given week if they have to.
Yeah, I agree. But the problem is they give up 45, 50 every week.
That's the issue. That's the issue.
I think they gave up 67 last week. That's crazy, man. It's crazy stuff.
That's the issue. Looking down now at the 3A slate, we've got Manning at Baptist Hill, Chester at Batesburg, Leesville, Hampton County at Brooklyn Casey. Another game that was in the running for our games of the week here. Hampton County continues to roll. Big win over Hilton Head Island last week. Zion Dobson is a stud there running the ball for them. Brooklyn Casey, a tough loss to Chapin. I know that game was kind of close score-wise, but I don't think it was really that tight. It didn't seem like but they played some good football. I think they got 2 losses already, but they've been playing some solid football there for Coach Sharpie. I think Hampton County wins again. It's a tough place to play over at BC, but I like what the Hurricanes are doing there under Coach Hanna.
I got to agree, man. Hampton County is a very good team. Again, this is Wade Hampton and Estill, 2 teams that were extremely talented last year in their classifications combining to make one team here. And they really haven't skipped a beat. They've been very impressive this season. That win over Hilton Head last week kind of cemented their status as a top 5 team in 2A. I think they're very good. But I think BC is very good as well. So especially with what they had to replace and, Tanner Staten and Ezekiel Mays and things like that. So I think BC's a good team, but I like Hampton County in that one.
Will Young, the receiver, Shrine Bowl guy for BC there. And Hampton County, like going back to last week, Hilton Head Island has some players on defense. A couple like Power 5, Group of 5 talents there that Hampton County was able to get it done against. So hats off to Coach Hanna and the boys there.
I think they got it's Braylon Kitty and Shake Thompson. Shake Thompson, I think that's how you say his name. I believe
he's a Shrine Bowler as well on the defensive line for them.
So that's huge win for Hampton County.
We've got Woodruff at Broome. Two upstate programs are getting after it. Woodruff been kind of up and down this year, it feels like. The offense looks great some weeks, other weeks not so much. Broome, Jalen McGill's a stud. We know that. Kamaje Brandon at quarterback's getting it done as well for them. I do want to shout out Broome and Berea last week for letting Chandler Lee big touchdown run late in the ball. I don't know if you guys saw that clip or not, but both teams kind of to help out Chandler. Let him have a big run. I don't know what's the PC way to say this, Jerel, but big touchdown for Chandler, a moment he's going to remember the rest of his life. It's on Twitter. It's on social media. Great moment there between that ball game, between those 2 squads. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I got to agree, man. That's a great moment, for Broome in that program, and they haven't skipped a beat. That's an underrated team. I'm really high on Broome. I think the Centurions are one of the top 5 teams in the state there. Should be a good football game, but I think Broome wins it.
Yeah, I think McGill is too much for Woodruff. We got North Charleston at Burke, Lake City at Camden. This could be a sneaky good ball game here. Camden bounced back. Nice win over AC Flora last week. Lake City, lost to Lawrence Manning, I think, week 0. They've been playing some pretty good football after that. They got a couple studs there at the running back spot, along with Lorenzo McFadden Presley, a defensive line, a Shrine Bowler as well. Yeah. I think Camden hopefully has gotten it figured out a little bit. But Lake City, they're not a bad football team at all.
Yeah, that's kind of like a coin flip. I don't know what to make of Camden. Which Camden is going to show up for this football game. I would lean that way, think that they're going to win. But like you said, Lake City has played, very good football. They've had some issues as far as, the coach there over the summer and things like that. So hopefully they've rallied behind the team there, and I think Camden wins it.
We've got Whitmire at Carolina, Union County at Chapman. I think I saw a comment from RJ about this one, Jerel. Yeah, thoughts on Chapman? Yeah, Chapman, great win last week over Clarendon on the road. Tough win there. Union got their first win as well over Florence, like a late touchdown there. But Union's just not very good. That's a program that's been trending downward the last couple of years. I think they're still not very good. I know they beat Lawrence, but Lawrence isn't very good either. I think Chapman wins again. I love what Coleman Gray's doing at quarterback. I love Matthias Scott. I love Rashawn Cunningham. Man, he's a stud at receiver, a big-time playmaker. Had some highlight catches last week against Clarendon. I think the Panthers and Coach Cab continue to roll.
Yeah, that's the most impressive thing, winning, going down to Wilder, winning that game.
Yeah.
But then those catches from Cunningham, man, he's a stud. They're a fantastic team. Had some big wins this year. I think Chapman cruises in that one too. Union, man, that's one of the ones we've got a few that we've circled, programs in South Carolina that we need to get back.
We've got Emerald going to Crescent. Saluda at Gilbert, one of the games Luke mentioned that a minute ago. Loris at Lakeview. Lakeview, a team that's played pretty good football. Going into the year, talked to some folks down there, said that, they were young and didn't know how good they would be, but they played good with Herlong and Foxworth and Kid and crew there. Derek, that's a big game for sure. Loris is getting better, a team that I was very high on last year. You guys heard me banging that drum all season long.
Last year.
I'm high on this year, too. All right, I was about to get to that, Joe. I was setting it up. Coach Greg Mann's doing a great job there. Jackson Huff is a great player. I believe Trey Knox, I think, is also out there. He's a good stud for them. I think Loris wins this game. Just too much depth. But Lakeview is a good 1A team. But I do like what Loris is doing and keep an eye on those guys in 3A. Yeah,
I think Loris is just a little bit too much, but I do like Lakeview as well, man. I don't know. That one's a tough one to pick. But, yeah, Loris by 3. We'll go.
We've got Blue Ridge at Landrum, a game that I saw Anthony ask about. The Highway 9 rivalry, Dillon at Marlboro County. Always a great matchup. I've seen some pictures of some jerseys on some road signs already.
Yeah, man.
I think they played twice last year. I think regular season and playoffs. Marlboro County started off pretty good. A nice win over Jerel. Had a couple tough losses lately. Playing Oceanside and wasn't really competitive in that one. Same with Scotland County there. I love what Purvis is doing for those guys. I love Coach McCollum there. They're getting better. But I think Dillon's just too much. Dillon played Hartsville really tough 2 weeks ago. Josiah Thompson, the Shrine Boy, the running or the lineman going to South Carolina, got his 5th star from on 3 this week. Josiah Oxendown, the quarterback's a good player. Peanut Singletary had to fill in. Run a couple weeks ago, had a big game. But Marion Fling is back. Huge game against Stockesty. That kid's a stud running the football there. I like Dillon in this game, especially playing a team in Marlboro County I think is not quite where they want to be right now. I like Dillon on the road to win this game. And it's kind of a homecoming, too, for Coach Roller, a Marlboro County guy going back to coach against his alma mater. I still like the Wildcats in this one.
Yeah, I think Dillon wins by a comfortable margin in this one. Don't really think it's going to be close. Love the rivalry, though. That can always throw a wrench in it, and those folks, man, they get really pumped up about that game down there. So that's very exciting for those communities, those counties. Like you said, those pictures with the jerseys are always awesome to see circulating on social media. But I don't think Marlboro's ready for what Dillon has this week.
Yeah, I like the Wildcats. It should be a fun matchup. I think Dillon's got a really good offensive line. Marlboro County, pretty good defensive line, but I think Josiah Thompson and the guys for the Wildcats a little too much up front for them. We've got Pendleton at Palmetto, Bishop England at Philip Simmons, Hanahan at Portergale. That's a fun SCISA 3A matchup there in between those two guys. We've got BHP at Walhalla. I mean, the Bears continue to roll. Marquise Henderson, 200+ every week, it feels like. Jerel, those guys are really, really good there. Calhoun Falls at West Oak. Battery Creek at Whale Branch is our last 3A ball game. Any comments here on the 3A ranks, Jerel?
Yeah, we got some trap game for Dillon.
It could be, if it wasn't such a rivalry, I would agree with you more there, Zach. But I think Dillon's too good. John says Dillon at 2+. Yeah, I think you're right. I think Dillon and Fling and those guys are a little too much firepower. Robert, good to have you in here, man. Yeah, I think we all like Dillon. I think the Wildcats win this ball game over at Marlboro County.
Let's see.
Wesley says Chapman Union. Chapman wins big. Yeah, I think we're all on Chapman's bandwagon as well.
I think that's all I got. Right. Oh, here we got one more. Got Daniel by 40.
Daniel by 40 more. Yeah, it may be a name your score thing for Daniel this week for sure, Chris. We'll see how that one turns out. Looking down now at the 2A ranks, we've got Louisville and Andrew Jackson. Louisville looking to avenge their long regular season loss from last year against the Volunteers. Louisville, I think the last 4 games have defeated their opponents 241-0.
Yes.
Pretty impressive. I do think Andrew Jackson could score a little bit with what they've got with Trey Thompson there and those guys. I think Louisville's going to win this ball game handily, but I don't think it's a shutout. How about that?
I don't think it's a shutout. I'll go with that. The bigger question this week, can Louisville score 80?
Ooh.
They've gone 40, 50, or I think they've gone 50, 60, 70 in consecutive weeks. Can they get 80 this week? Well, we'll have to get Dadrian in here to see, what he thinks about it. But it's going to be very interesting. I think Louisville is going to win by a lot.
Yeah, he says right here, they're so deep, man. Ian Grissom and Robinson and Howes. I mean, just Deion Brown, studs everywhere. A lot of talent for a 1A squad, I think. Don't tempt them. Yeah, I think Louisville wins this ballgame. They avenged that loss from last year on the road. We've got Silver Bluff at Barnwell. A fun game always down here. This one's at Carter, W.W. Carter Field there down in Barnwell. Silver Bluff, took the tough loss a couple weeks ago to Midland Valley. I still think they're very good. I still think they're a very, very good football team there. Barnwell, they've been kind of up and down. A couple nice wins, couple tough losses. They had to come back late to beat Aiken last week. But this is a rivalry game here. Coach Smith will have those guys ready to go. But I think Silver Bluff is a little too much, even though they're on the road.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Silver Bluff is probably going to win this one by 2 touchdowns or more. Barnwell's just been way too inconsistent this year. And I really like Silver Bluff. I think they got 2 Shrine Bowlers on the defensive line. Got Jordan Boyd, and I'm blanking on the other one right now. Jaden Fuller. There we go.
And they got Jay Neeson too in the middle.
Got baby man, Jay Neeson, man. They're just too tough. I think they're too much for Barnwell this year. Barnwell they lost a lot. Tyler Smith, man, that's a huge void, for Barnwell.
Especially until they find a better running game to help out Cam Austin. I think it's going to be tough for him back there. I like Silver Bluff in that ball game. Mentioned this one earlier. Chester at Batesburg, Leesville, Cross at Buford, Mullins at Carvers Bay, Anson out of North Carolina going to Central, Latta at Jerel here. Jerel team that's been very up and down. I think, we talked to Coach Poole off-season, preseason, had interviews on our Facebook and YouTube pages there. Some young kids, you're going to see some of that, maybe some inconsistency and whatnot. Latta, a team that has been surprising everyone in the 1A ranks, a huge win over Johnsonville last week, a non-competitive game really there. Jerel, a pretty good home field advantage for those guys, the Braves for sure, but can Latta keep rolling, you think, Jerel?
I think so, man. Preseason, that's a game, I would have easily just, in marker, Jerel's going to win that football game. But I got a completely reverse course there. I think Latta has been so impressive this year. The way they beat Johnsonville, they went 28-0 first quarter, recovered a couple onside kicks. So they're getting it done. Jamarian Martin, running back. Jamarian Jones, excuse me. They're just playing really good football right now. Going back to another team, too, that I want to talk, Cross. That's a team that we need to keep our eyes on, too, man. They got an easier one against Buford this week. Buford hasn't played nearly as well as they did last year. But Cross is a team that's been sneaky as well. They're getting better and better after losing their first game.
That's the Calhoun County, who's a good football team. So, no shame. No shame in that. We got McBee at Chesterfield, Eau Claire at Columbia, Fox Creek at Georgia Innovation/Classics. So that'll be a fun one there for Fox Creek. Game of the week, Saluda at Gilbert. We broke that one down earlier. If you guys missed that, check it out at the beginning of the show. We've got Andrews at Green Sea Floyd. Andrews needs a bounce-back win. That was a tough loss last week to Walkmore. That surprised me there for those guys. Yeah. Newberry at Keenan. Kingstree at Lamar. That's an interesting game there, Jerel. I think Kingstree has some athletes. They can put up some points. Lamar, quarterback, was back, I think, first time last week for Zori Pierce. I think he threw 3 touchdowns after being out for a couple weeks. I think the Silver Foxes will be just fine when region play comes along.
Yeah, I think so, too. That was a good win. I think they won that one 19-10 last week over McBee. Like you said, get healthy at the quarterback spot. I don't think there's a team that's scheduled non-region harder than Lamar has, getting them ready to go into region play. I think they'll be just fine. I think they beat Kingstree this week.
And it's tough, for Lamar because it's always tough for 1A schools to schedule non-region in general. But then when you're a premier 1A program like Lamar, a lot of the local 1A programs don't want to play you And then a lot of the other ones that are around you are all your region games already. So you got to schedule up. You got to schedule guys like Andrew Jackson and Airport and Dillon. And that's tough, man. And Kingstree as well, is a bigger school as well. So see how Coach Byrnes and the guys do this week. We got Blue Ridge at Landrum, Scotts Branch at Lee Central. This game has been forfeited. Gray Collegiate at Mid-Carolina. I believe the War Eagles, I don't think they have a game scheduled for this one, Jerel.
I don't think so.
Believe to make that one up with. Edisto at Military Magnet. We mentioned this with Marion at Myrtle Beach, one of our games of the week. Pillion at 96. Academic Magnet at Northwood Academy. Northwood Academy, tough loss last week to Hilton Head Christian. Academic Magnet is not horrible. They're a decent squad there. I think Austin Grady and Northwood a little too much. I think the Chargers get back in on the right side this week.
Yeah, I think so too. I love that classification. Not horrible. That's pretty good there.
Bishop England at Philip Simmons. I'm high on the Iron Horses. Liberty at Pickens, mentioned that one. And I think that's all of the 2A slate. Any comments you want to address here?
Yeah, man, we got Strom Thurman by 14.
Yeah, we're all leaning to Strom, but I think it should be a good ball game for sure, Gregory. Yep, I think I'm similar. I think Louisville wins by a few scores, but I don't think they quite get a shutout this week. Robert says go Barn. Well, that'll be a tough ball game down there this week.
Let's see.
Johnson said to put the Vikings on the map. They were strong against Straw. Yeah, the Vikings are looking good, man. I think they might already be on the map at 5-0 with the big win over Johnsonville, but we'll see what happens this week for sure.
I think that's it for now.
Down to the 1A ranks, East Clarendon at Bamberg-Earhart. East Clarendon, a big win over Hannah Pamplico last week. I don't think they have enough for Bamberg. I think Bamberg rolls in this one, but should be a neat ball game down there. Whitmire at Carolina. Let's see. McCormick at Christ Church. Ware Shoals at Dixie. C.A. Johnson at Hemingway. Caleb Pearson, one of our players of the week. Huge game last week for those guys.
Stud.
This 1A game here, Jerel, was almost a game of the week for us. Two undefeated squads. That's Calhoun County at HKT. Calhoun County, Christian Zachary, the Davenport kid are getting it done on the offensive side of the ball. But HKT, they beat a previously unbeaten Wagner Sally team last week, and it wasn't competitive. They were up 50-0 at one point. I had the stats for those guys earlier. They're averaging 52.8 on offense, allowing 5.5 on defense right now. They're playing some great football down there. I think Calhoun County is the best team they've played so far.
Yes.
I like the Saints to win this one. I think a little too much firepower. I think Christian Zachary in the return game as well. He has a big game. I think they win this ball game.
Yeah, but what a heck of a start to the season for HKT, man. That's normally a score recently. I've only been covering for about 3 years now.
Yeah,
you kind of just read past when they play a game. I got to do some more digging. I got to learn more about that team there because they seem to be legitimate. They're having a great season. Really happy for those guys. But like you said, I think Calhoun County, they're very talented. I think they're a legitimate. That win over Cross, like we mentioned earlier. That first week of the season, kind of we're like, whoa, that's a bad loss for Cross. And like as we progress now, it's like, dang, Calhoun County's really good. So
yeah,
I think they win the game, and but I think HKT makes it competitive.
Two teams here that need a win: Hannah Pamplico at Johnsonville. HP. I love their offense. Started off really hot, put up tons of points. They've had a couple bad losses now, honestly. Last week to East Clarendon, lost to Jerel as well, and then Johnsonville. North Central lost week 0. Come back, they're playing pretty good football. Blown out by Latta last week. Hannah Pamplico did beat that North Central team that beat Johnsonville. The flashes at home are tough. I think I'm going to go with Coach Cribb to have a bounce back game here. I trust what they're doing a little bit more than what HP's doing. I think Malik Shippey and Johnsonville gets a win.
Two roller coaster, teams here. I have no idea, man. I'll go the other way around. Give me HP in this game.
We've got Edisto at Military Magnet. We mentioned this is a game of the week. Southside Christian at St. Joseph's. Great Falls at Thornwell Charter. I saw Thornwell Charter won their first game in however many years. They just restarted the program, so it was a long time. They got a win last week. Hats off to the Saints, I believe they are.
We'll go with it.
Those guys. Blackfield Hilda at Wagner Sally. The Fighting Hawks at Blackfield Hilda continue to roll drill. Big win over Denmark Olar last week. Wagner Sally, like we mentioned, got the doors blown off by HKT. I think Blackfield Hilda coach Kevin Jones, they got those guys rolling the right direction.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they're a very good team. I don't think it's going to stop. I think they're a team that's going to contend for the lower state championship there.
The last game in 1A, we have RSM at Williston Elko. Any comments on 1A, Jerel, that we need to chat about? HKT did this last year too. Yeah, it certainly could happen, man. You never know, but that was an impressive win last week, I felt like.
Yeah, I think that's all we have right now. Zach's giving us some clarification. They are the Saints.
Okay, yep. Yeah, and Zach, do you remember how long it's been since they won a game? It had been, I want to say, I think maybe the 90s, but I don't know for sure, but it's been quite a while there for Thornwell Charter. Good win for those guys. But let's take a quick look at the SCISA slate here before we move into the next part of the program. We've got Lawrence Academy at Jefferson Davis, Hammond at Camden Military, Williamsburg at Northside Christian. The Stallions, after a big win over PD Academy last week, they are rolling with Teague Ward, and those guys, Camden Moore, getting it done as well. Lee Academy at Cross Episcopal, Buford Academy at Hilton Head Christian. That's a fun SCISA game there. Calhoun Academy at Orangeburg Prep, Kings Academy at Carolina, Wardlaw at Holy Trinity, Colin Prep at Spartanburg Christian, Greenwood Christian at Thomas Sumter. We mentioned our SCISA game of the week, Patrick Henry at Clarendon Hall, Wilson Hall at First Baptist. Coach Birch got his first win last week. Great to see that for him.
Awesome.
King Academy at Richard Wynn, Community Christian at Newberry, Hilton Head Prep at PD Academy. Homecoming for the Golden Eagles at Lawn. Should be a fun matchup there. I like the Golden Eagles to roll. They got kind of a rotating quarterback spot going on right now, but it's fun when they put Richardson there. They put Trussell out wide. They put Trussell in the corner. They put Richardson out wide. It's fun what they're doing there. They're getting the offense rolling there, it seems like, under Coach Jonathan King. We got Ben Lippin at Cardinal Newman, John Paul II at Florence Christian, Dorchester at Dillon Christian, Andrew Jackson Academy at Faith Christian, Augusta Christian at Heathwood Hall, Bethesda at Palmetto Christian, Oakbrook Prep at Holly Hill, St. John's at Thomas Hayward. Drill, let's get a shout out to our friends of the program unless we have any comments.
Take your financial game to the next level with Founders Federal Credit Union. Reach your full potential. Relax. Join Founders today. Visit an office near you or relaxjoinfounders.com to apply. Federally insured by NCUA, member qualification required.
The George Agency has been serving the insurance needs of South Carolina for over 40 years. They're a full-line insurance agency concentrated in employee benefits and health insurance with an office in Mullins and Murrells Inlet, but they can help you all across the state. They have clients in Greer, Rock Hill, Columbia, and more, so wherever you are, they can help. Give Bradley, Wayne, Richard, and the crew a call or check them out online at thegeorgeagency.net. That's thegeorgeagency.net. Okay, Jerel, any comments from the chat we need to mention before we look at the next portion of the program?
Let's get these pulled up. Computer's not cooperating. Let's see. Got the first win since 2006.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember what the year was. So basically, I guess 17 years there for Thornwell. Hats off to those guys.
Yep. That's all we've got right now.
Perfect. Well, Jerel, we unveiled our first polls of the season last week, and I think we've got a little bit of a shake-up this week after a couple, moving parts here, but we say this every week that we started doing this because we didn't like the other polls that were out there. We feel like all of those folks don't see a lot of the state. They just cover one part of it. So we think that we do a pretty good job of covering the whole state here. So let's take a look, Jerel, at our new Week 5 polls from Movin The Chains. In the 5A ranks, consensus number 1, Summerville. A tie for second, Hillcrest and Spartanburg. 4th, Byrnes. And 5th, Fort Dorchester. I mean, the Green Wave continued to impress. Big win last week over Sumter. Hillcrest continues to roll as well. A big blood over Powdersville. 5A was tough, man, because it's just almost every team seems to have a good win or two, but also maybe a bad loss or so as well outside of, like a Somerville squad there. So tough for me to rank, but I think the Green Wave are the number 1 right now for sure.
Yeah, we all agreed on Somerville, and then it was kind of pure chaos after that. Like you said, like you have Hillcrest. Hillcrest is undefeated as well, but just, their level of comp just really, doesn't match up with the other schools that we talked about. Spartanburg, they've kind of been up and down. I've kind of given Spartanburg more credit for a loss than anything. That 2-point loss, to Grayson out of Georgia was really big for them. But then the other teams, like you said, like Byrnes, that's a tough loss to Chapman. Fort D got blown out by that Grayson team by 41. I think we'll see some movement, though, this week, just like we saw last week. I think we replaced about half the poll in 5A this go around.
Down at 4A, Northwestern, unanimous, all three first place votes there. Second, South Florence. Third, James Island. Fourth, Irmo, in a tie for fifth with Hartsville and South Point. 4A, I feel like is so deep, Jerel. I like a lot of these teams. Northwestern was just so impressive last week. They do have that one loss to Providence Day, but that was a game they certainly hung tough in, could have won that ball game. South Florence, a great win on the road at South Point last week. I do worry a little bit about the offense there. They haven't quite gotten it rolling on that side, especially through the air yet. So I think they'll get better as the season goes along. James Island's kind of laying in the weeds, man. They're blowing everybody out down there. Braxton Scott's doing his thing. Wishy Ravenel's doing his thing. The defense is playing lights out. They're a great squad there under Coach McCoy. Irmo, a team that we put at 4. And I've got mixed feelings about Irmo, man. I love their size. I love their physicality. I love, J. Hendricks, the running back. The passing offense didn't do a lot last week, but didn't really have to either, I would say, But the defense looked good too, man. I think they're a very good football team. Are they as good as that 1, 2, and 3 slot? I don't quite know yet.
Yeah, that's a tough one there, and that's what I went back and forth with, those 3 at the bottom. You had Hartsville, Irmo, and South Point. South Point's done some good things, suffered a few losses.
Yep.
I think both their losses are, 3 points or less.
Yeah.
Then you've got Irmo. It's a good story. Like you said, I'm not sure, how good they are because that was supposed to be the test. They played Hartsville, but then, I hate to be like those, NFL announcers. You kind of got to put an asterisk by it because you didn't see the best version of Hartsville in that game.
Yeah.
There was a lot that was missing there. So it was difficult, but I think one thing is for sure that Northwestern's the number 1 team in 4A.
I agree. And in 4A so deep, we could have put teams like, Midland Valley up there.
Yeah.
I mean, just a lot of squads that could have made the cut. But looking at 3A now, we've got split first place votes here. The only classification we have that. We have BHP with 2 first place votes, Daniel with 1 first place vote in second place, Dylan at third, tie for fourth with Gilbert and Crestwood. Also receiving votes, Broome and Philip Simmons. Another really deep class. BHP has been so impressive. My worry with them, Jerel, is the passing offense. If they have to throw it ever, can they do it? I don't know. Daniel's kind of tough to get a read on because we know they're good. We think they're good, but the competition level makes it tough to really judge them. I like Daniel. I gave them a first place vote. I like what the Lions are doing. I think Dylan got a lot better last week with having Marion fling back. They're going to be tough as well, but just creeping there on the outside. Philip Simmons, I like that squad a lot, man. The Iron Horses are tough. Obviously, a team like Gilbert who just snuck in the top 5 is rolling. They're trending in the right direction. We got guys like Buford who are just kind of laying in the weeds out there. We got Clinton who we know is good. 3A has some good football teams as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. I'll say, I voted for Broome, and I think Broome deserved to be up there. I think they're a good team. I know you're high on Philip Simmons. Those are teams that are very deserving. 3A is the hardest one because it is so deep. Like you said, I got BHP at the top just because they have steamrolled everybody, and I give them credit. We talked about 4A. Westside is a really good football team.
Yeah.
And, they beat the brakes off. They won that game convincingly. So that's kind of where I've given them, like you said, though, the 2 that we talked about every year, Daniel and Dylan, they're going to be there. So, it is what it is. And we'll see how it all shakes out. That's why they play the games, right?
Yeah. Looking at 2A, we've got Gray Collegiate in first, Oceanside Collegiate in second, Hampton County in third, Marion in fourth, and a 3-way tie for fifth. Abbeville, Saluda, and Silver Bluff. So we managed to get 7 teams ranked in our top 5 poll somehow in 2A. But and Gray's gonna be such a tough one to rank throughout the rest of the year, Jerel, because they've got so many great wins early in the year. A Crestwood team, a Camden team, a Hammond team, Christchurch. But now it's going to be tough to judge them. They play, St. John's last week, who's I think a nationally ranked squad. This game, it was out of hand early. They scored some late, but we never really had a chance to win, I would say. They got some bigger teams, I think, out of other, Georgia and Florida scheduled down the stretch here. The teams that I just don't know a lot about, so it's going to be hard to judge them. But I like their talent. And I think for them, the key is just being able to play games. Honestly, not really mattering who it is, but they just need to be able to play football and not have to, sit out 5-6 weeks before getting back into the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people hate that. We have a lot of, fans, people who follow us who are supporters of 2A programs. And, they don't want to see Gray and Oceanside at the top of the poll, but I can't justify moving Gray if they're not losing to in-state teams, but also I understand why these teams aren't playing them. So I completely I understand that part of it. So not like I'm, a Gray apologist or anything like that, but from what I've seen, they're the best team in 2A.
Yeah.
I think Oceanside's a very good squad as well. It is crazy. We had the top 4 teams were pretty much set between the 3 of us, and we all voted somebody different in that 5 slot. So just shows, how we have differing opinions. But all are very deserving to be ranked. Like you said, we got 7 and 5 spots.
And it could change this week too. When we get if we get a big strong Thurman win, they probably jump in. Depends on what happens with Marion at Myrtle Beach. They could go up or down, seeing how that ball games go. Saluda as well over Gilbert. That's a good ball game as well. So 2A will be fun to follow this week. In the 1A ranks, all 3 first place votes go to Louisville. We've got St. Joe's in 2nd, Calhoun County in 3rd, Christchurch in 4th, Bamberg-Earhart in 5th. Also 3 votes, Latta and Whale Branch. Another class that could change a lot. Southside Christian could easily win that ballgame over St. Joe's, flip the whole script there in 1A. I like Louisville to win, but that's a tough matchup for them as well. Calhoun County kind of flying under the radar. Same thing with Christchurch. They got a couple early. They got 3 losses already, I think. They lost to 2 losses, lost to Gray and then to Riverside. But they're going to get better under Deshaun Reeder, Strong Bowl guy. He's a stud there for them. Bamberg, they are always tough. We know that. Their one loss to Denmark Olar, who has kind of fallen apart last week, it feels like there for them. Whale Branch, I know John's high on those guys. They're playing football. And then Latta, the team that, we just don't know what to do with. I mean, they hadn't played anybody until last week. They play somebody, they blow them out. So it's like, man, should they be 3? I don't know. Like that.
Sure.
1A is a deep classification as well, it feels like.
Yeah, we'll learn a lot about that Latta team, them not being officially in the poll. We'll learn about them in their region play. So we'll learn quickly how good they are. But yeah, I think Louisville's clearly the number 1 team, just the way that they perform. Yeah. They ran into a buzzsaw with Oceanside. But there's some really good teams in 1A there. St. Joe's, like you mentioned, Calhoun County, laying in the weeds. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how they start separating themselves in region play.
And then obviously a team that didn't get a vote that's always there at the end. That's Lamar. I mean, we know they're going to be right there at the end, Jerel. Sure. They're coming. Lamar's coming. We know that. And I like Blackville Hill a lot. I really do. So I think they could be make some noise in the playoffs. But any comments on the polls we got here?
I think we do. I just haven't been able to flip over there yet. Let's take a look. Let's see. John's got some.
Gilbert handles Saluda. I think so too, man. I think the Indians a little too much firepower at home, especially. Yeah, if Strong Thurman beats North Augusta, I think they make the ranks. I think you're exactly right, Williams. Yeah, so if Gilbert beats Saluda, they probably jump up even higher than 3A poll also. Corey says Marion better than Hampton County. I think I had Marion ranked ahead of Hampton County. I don't know if I did or not. I may be mistaken.
You did.
I like the Swamp Foxes, man. This is a tough matchup for them this week, but should be a fun one down there at the beach. Jerel, you can take this one. Oh,
yeah, man. I just, it's just too deep, man. It's 3A, man. They're just so deep. That's the hard thing.
The team that beat them, Chapman didn't get any votes either. So it's a tough class in 3A.
We're only ranking 5, and it's crazy. We got some. Yeah, we bumped out.
Exactly
Gaffney.
Right, bro. Yeah, we try to be kind of fluid with it, man. Like wherever we see fit. I think Gaffney will turn around and be good for sure. Same thing, Midland Valley. I think they're going to be in the top 5 at some point here pretty soon, I believe, Williams.
Let's see.
Zach says he believes Irma should be ranked higher at the performance. Yeah, that was a tough one. Like Jerel and I said, not sure if they're quite ready for that 1 or 2 spot yet, but we'll see as they continue to play in their region.
We got some love for Whitmire, too, man. That's a team that's very much improved.
Yeah, Coach Campbell's got them rolling. They had a big win over Mid-Carolina a couple weeks ago, big win over Spartanburg Christian. Playing good football there. I think they beat Ware Shoulder early in the year as well. The Wolverines are playing good, man, for sure, Tony. No doubt about it.
All right, I think we have to take a look at the Pick'em graphics. I've been trying to avoid this because
tough one for me last week. Our Pick'em contest brought to you by Hannah Engineering, as always. A lot of fun. We had a 7-way tie for first place in week 4. Chase, Kane, Nathan, James, Chris, OGB, and Sherm, all with a 9 spot. Great job by those guys. And about, I don't know what, 20 folks tied for 8th. I'm not going to read all those there with 8th spot. John got an 8 to lead us 3. I had 6. Jerel had 5.
Ooh.
A tough week across the state, man. I'm lucky to get 6, I feel like, right?
Dude, I was lucky to get 5. Didn't think I was going to do that well as the score started rolling in. But yeah, no, that was a tough one. You know, it was a high caliber week, you know, and I just showed that I don't know anything about football. So let's look at the overall scores and make myself feel better.
Overall, pick'em leaders, we have J.D. Patterson and Chase H at 41, Dale B at second with 40, Peyton C with 39 and third, tied fourth, Kane, Lance, and Dallas at 38, then Nathan, Josh, Kyle, Haley, Brandon, Curtis, and Franklin all at 37. Jerel and John tied with 37. I'm right there with 36. If you guys have not been a part of this yet, hop in there. We may have some weekly prizes down the stretch for you. Just posted on our website along with our Facebook and Twitter page as well. You just get the picks in about 7 o'clock on Fridays. We'll start a new contest for the playoffs as well. So it's a lot of fun. Gives you a reason to follow football across the state and not just your team or your region. So definitely join that. It's a lot of fun to do each and every week. Jerel, a couple comments here I wanted to get to before we wrap up here. I want to shout out our players of the week brought to you by Georgia Aided. So we had Jaden Allen Hendricks out of Irmo. We had Caleb Pearson from C.A. Johnson and Turbo Richard from Northwestern. 3 running backs with 3 huge ball games last week to earn our Players of the Week honors. As always, guys, if you see somebody with a big game, shoot that to us on social media, email, whatever. We'll love to get those stats from you guys. We mentioned this earlier briefly, the Shrine Bowl. Those rosters came out on Sunday. If you have not seen that, I've got them posted on a blog on our website. That's also on our social media pages. Go check out who made it, what school they're from, and all that stuff. A lot of cool stuff there. Drew, anything else you want to talk about on this week's show here before we kind of wrap up for the evening?
Like I said, I think the theme is, quality over quantity this week. I think there's some really good matchups. I'm really excited. The more we talked about it, I'm really interested to see that Marion Myrtle Beach game. I'll definitely be tuned into that. Don't know where we're going this week though. We'll have to figure that out. Got to stay close to home. You know, we gotta be Death Valley on Saturday pretty early, so we can't get too far away this week.
That's
but
right.
I got to go back. Hartsville too. Got to give them a shout out, man. That was a lot of fun. Got to give a shout out to Coach Pearson over at Spring Valley, putting us on Westwood Barbecue. We love barbecue buffets. If you have not, check them out in Hartsville. Fantastic. I ate probably 20 pounds of food for $11. So it was fantastic. Then we had a top ranked, hot dog too inside the stadium there in Kellytown, but fantastic, trip down there last week.
Yeah, and if you guys, if you don't listen to our recap show that comes out on Sundays, it's on our Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, everywhere you can find it there. Brought to you by Folly Row, our recap shows are. We had a couple good questions, one of them being about the Shrine Bowl selections being so early in the year. Hop in there, get Jerel and I's thoughts on that. Definitely love to have y'all tune in for that. If you guys have just tuned in for the first time, we appreciate you. As always, like our page, share it, comment, tell your friends. Trying to grow this and get it as big as we can. We're on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. at Movin Chains, MOVINCHAINS. MovinChains.com is our website. Like I mentioned, our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Movin The Chains brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. We do a live preview show, 7 o'clock on Tuesday nights on YouTube and Facebook. Hope you guys can hop in. Love to get your comments about your favorite teams. We do a live scoreboard show, Friday Night Spaces, over on Twitter/X about 10:30, 11 on Fridays. It's a great time to catch up on all the scores from the night while you're driving back to your house or whatever it is. Hop in there. We have a lot of folks who get in there and comment about their favorite teams' games. Love to have you join us for that as well. Stay tuned for our Players of the Week, our Teams of the Week, Games of the Week, our Pick'em contest, all of that great stuff, man. But I do want to take a second, Jerel, and just give a shout-out to everybody that has been supporting us, man. It's great to see almost every game we go to now. We have folks coming up saying, hey, great to meet you guys. Appreciate what y'all do. Whether that's coaches or ADs or fans or whatever, even players. It's awesome, man. We appreciate you guys, looking out for us. And it's been really cool to have this grow like it has the last couple of years. I know I told somebody the other day that John and I went to lunch twice 2 weeks ago. Both days had somebody come up and say something to us. So we're just, eating lunch. So it's super cool to see that, man. It's a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, man, I appreciate everybody, especially everyone jumping in and commenting, whether they agree, disagree, love the interaction, man. That's the beauty of sports. That's why we get passionate about our teams, our players, our communities. That's what makes it a lot of fun. Like you said, man, it's so cool being able to interact with so many people across the state. And if you see us out, like we always say, man, come talk to us because we want to know, what you got going on, who you think's the best, what you think of what we do, because put a lot of work into it, but it's a lot of fun as well. So appreciate each and every one of you for sure. And I got to throw this comment up here, man.
Corey, you're right. Western Barbecue was great, man. That was my first time. I loved it. All the sides were great. That was a great spot for a pregame meal on Friday.
Yeah, and then one last,
Tony, uncalled for, Tony. Uncalled for, Tony.
But cool, man.
Uncalled for. But yeah, appreciate you guys' support as always, man. Moving the Change brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. For Jerel Hendricks, I'm Kevin Thomas. This has been our Week 5 preview show. We will catch you guys soon.